Okay, precious metals update. It's September 2nd. So we have our full weekly candle. It's Friday night. We also have our August monthly candle and, a couple trading days of our September candle. So we'll start with the dollar index because that's the Dixie. That's really important. That tends to drive, or that tends to correlate with metals prices and commodities in general. So this is a monthly chart we'll just look at really quickly. I mean, look at this thing over since so this is these are the long-term cycles, the 3-year cycles in this case. So the last 3-year cycle low was January 2021, right? Look at the rally since that. So we did have this chop phase, right? So month 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it like wasted a lot of time these first 5 months. But then I mean, look at this thing. Jesus. There's been a lot of bias, sort of like, oh, right, the dollar, they're printing a lot of dollars, etc. But look at this chart. I mean, look at this candle from April. Jesus, Lord. I mean, so we're now on month 20 of the 3-year cycle, which generally will be about, 36 months. This last one was 35. But notice here, you had this like 21-month cycle sort of thing. Here you had 36 months. Here you had 38. You could argue this was 23 and this was 21. You could argue this was one larger one that was 44, right? 44 months, that is, right? So more like 4 years versus 3, right? Like if you just kind of call the price action as it is. But the point is, this is obviously an outstretched rally, especially after this huge consolidation. I mean, take the price action for what it is, right? Like this is just consolidation here for many, many years, right? Like basically from like 2015 to like 2020, so like 5 years of consolidation. And now we just kind of broke out. And so at some point we're going to top, right? At some point we're going to get that high for this 3-year cycle. And that's the big thing we're watching for. It's month 20, hasn't happened yet, which means this 3-year cycle is right translated, which is another thing when you think about cycles being nested within each other. With like, you think about the implications for what the 15-year cycle would mean for the dollar, for instance. I'll do a different video on that. I will post as always in the description. There's links to my previous videos about precious metals. I'll also post links to the previous videos about the dollar index itself specifically. It's been incredibly bullish. The chart has been incredibly bullish. I mean, look at this thing. UUP is one way to play it. It's an ETF. And so if you think about the daily cycle, it looks like we have a high so far, day 16. So we're probably going to have our daily cycle high soon and move into our daily cycle low. And that's going to probably be your chance for like your metals and commodities to sort of rally. But what we're really watching for, again, is that 3-year cycle top. We're already on month 20, right? If we think it's going to be like a 35-month cycle, we're going to get that top at some point. Like maybe it even stretches to like month 25, right? Maybe it's incredibly bullish and it stretches to month 30. We'll see. So let's flip to gold now. Let's get into the actual metals themselves. So we'll start with the daily chart. So gold, I guess it did I guess it closed as a swing low just above the low from this candle from yesterday, which was day 30, right? A hair just almost failed, but didn't quite get there. I mean, this is just like your textbook sort of downtrend though, right? And I think we went through this last time, but look at that, right? Boom. Lower high. And so you expect at some point another lower high and then your lower low, and you kind of work your way down. And so this bounce, if someone is trapped, chance to get out. If you're not long, if you're really trying to scalp, maybe that works. But I mean, wow, that's a hair. At the same time, if you go to higher time frames, so weekly, looks like we got our top on week 3 of this weekly cycle, and we still, again, same idea, same price action, right? We haven't failed yet. Week 6, So next week we start week 7. Right. It's entirely possible that, this becomes just a sort of higher low of that one, right? Maybe in an optimistic scenario we work our way up like that, right? But also very possible that instead we do something like, right, like something like that. Who knows what price level we end up at. And if you look at the monthly chart, really important, this is where the patterns matter, and also the cycles, the rally count, if you will. We are on month 81 of the long-term cycle, right? We had our high on month 56, which was August 2020. Again, this is the gold cycle, CFDs. The TVC is a data source. We did not quite make another. We did not quite get. We missed making. We didn't even get a double top, right? We missed it by $5. So we made a slight lower high here in that war-fueled rally. That was that weekly cycle just before this one. And then look at this monthly chart, right? Just straight down. So this candle, right, that marks that war-fueled rally. We made that lower low, then another lower low, consolidation but still red. People are losing money. Lower low. This was consolidation because we did not make a lower low. And again, I think it's incredibly likely we're going to make a low below this 1680 level that, everyone is sort of watching like a hawk. But at the same time, right now, what's setting up right here is a false breakdown, fake breakdown, whatever you want to call it. We made a low below this low for the last month, and now we're threatening to reverse higher. That's the kind of thing that's manifesting on smaller time frames. And so it can play out for like a trade for hours, maybe even days. But it'll be interesting to see if it cascades and actually holds on the monthly chart. Because what that would imply is that, sorry, that was the weekly. What that would imply is that you're actually going to make a high above here eventually, right? So like at that 1807 level, which is possible. I mean, that's only like $100 from here, but I mean, we'll see. And so that's gold, not looking amazing. If we go to silver, looking much worse. So we did make that new low. You can see, right, like very clearly. Day 35 was our low, just like gold yesterday was 30. So it's slightly different count, but same pattern. Except in the case of silver, we actually did make that lower low, right? So, this low lower than this one pretty definitively already. Not a good sign. It's a harbinger. Which obviously manifests on the weekly. So again, think about this. Last several cycles for silver, right? The one before this one, top on week 6. One before that, top on week 7. One before that, top on week 7. That's brutal. And now we're getting a top on week 5. We're now on week 7, and we're way lower. And so again, it's possible. And in this case, again, it's already made that lower low. Gold has not. Gold is still holding a higher low. That's important to sort of notice. And I think the reason is clear. The market is selling off, and so gold is getting a little bit of a safe haven bid, whereas silver just doesn't enjoy that kind of safe haven bid. And the same applies to GDX. I'll just flip to that really quickly. You can see GDX falling off a cliff, right? It's also making lower lows on the weekly. And if we look on the monthly, obviously same thing. But again, just like gold, possible fake breakdown. Again, doesn't have to, in this case, it would imply making a high above 27.58, which is, a lot of upside from here, like $4 on a $24 stock, on a 20 ETF rather. But it doesn't have to play out entirely. It can go get up here and then kind of get rejected. You kind of build a wick. We'll see how the sort of September candle ends. But that gives you a bit of a setup. I mean, look at this one. This is GDX again. So we flipped to GDX. This is the monthly chart. This was obviously going lower. So this was your parabolic top in August. This was obviously going lower, but not like crazy lower. And then we tried to like rally here, false breakout, fake breakout. And then, look at that. My God, just lower low, lower low. So remember that gold chart. I'll just flip back to it really quickly. Where, right, this made a lower low. This candle made a lower low than this one. But this one did not, right? This stayed within that. This made a lower low than this, but this did not as well. But with GDX, this candle made a lower low. 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 This candle, what did it do? It made a lower low. Do you notice a pattern? Right? So like GDX is way, way weaker than the metal itself, which is always a tell. That's just your tell. Now, again, maybe getting a little bit of a rally here on lower time frames. But let's see what happens if it really cascades onto the monthly. But I mean, my God, this has been quite the move lower. And so if we look at the daily at the daily cycle to get a little bit more precision, we're working on a swing low off day 28, which is kind of early actually for a daily cycle low, which suggests there's more downside. Like we may not get as sustained a rally, honestly. Like look at the last several daily cycles. The one before that, day 48, before that, 41. All right, so that one is 31. And I'm never a big stickler on cycle band, like cycle count like bands per se. So I won't like do that here, but it's good it's a good gauge to get a sense, right? And so that's GDX for you. And on the weekly, it's either week 31 or week 5. If anything, it really doesn't matter because we've already failed, right? So I guess, right, if it's week 31, we may be having a really, really late ICL and then a really furious rally. And if we get the furious rally, we'll see that and we'll know in hindsight. But that's where we stand essentially. And I think just for silver, I just want to kind of call out that monthly chart again. At some point, we had this swing low, right? So I'll get rid of this arrow now. It's irrelevant now, right? But again, they're all setting up this same thing. We made that lower low. Now we've gone green. If it gets some follow through next week, we can start to see that pattern build for a bullish outside candle on the monthly level. Does it get follow through? In this case, it would be a move above 2087, right? That's a nice move from here at 18, right? But I'm inclined to think, we're going to have to be cautiously optimistic. And in the case of silver, same idea as GDX. Lower low, lower low, lower low, lower low, lower low. I hope you're seeing this, right? Meaning each candle makes a lower low, right? It makes a low below the low of the previous candle. This candle makes a low below this one below that, right? You see that. This one below that. And this looked bullish, right? At one point, this was green again. At one point, this was nice and green. And then it just failed and then got bearish follow through. But now we're reversing on the other side. Let's see what the smaller time frames bring us. So that's the picture for precious metals. It's not looking super rosy, unfortunately, but at the same time, we have the privilege of many different assets that we can trade, which is great.